Your playoff-bound Minnesota Vikings are about to kick off against the Chicago Bears. Win, and you get in. Not just get in, potentially get that number one seed. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about tonight's game against the Bears, and we're going to have some fun while doing it. Welcome to the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show. This one, a pregame show heading into Monday Night Football. I'm your host, Tyler Forness. With me, as always, in the top left corner is producer Dave, and in the bottom right corner of your screen is Mr. Odie taking a nap. He is just too excited for the game. He needs to get his rest in. Let's have some quick conversation. First, I do think we need to talk about the fact that the Minnesota Vikings are in the playoffs. Dave, they're in the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Don't talk about playoffs.
Yes, they are. Thank you, sort of, to that team from Wisconsin for securing that for us yesterday. Not that I wanted them to win.
No, it's always bad when they win, but at least if they do, you get something out of it, which is exactly what this was. Now, let's have a conversation really quick about what this means for the NFC North. Here, it's really this simple. The Vikings win every game the rest of the year. They get the NFC North crown. And at worst, they will be the number 2 seed. Likely, based on how tiebreakers are going to work, they will have the number 1 seed. So the way the tiebreakers work, it is overall record, head-to-head, common opponents, and then strength of victory. So the teams you beat, what's their record? Basically, it's to try and separate, okay, did Team A have a harder schedule or Team B have a harder schedule? When we look at those things preseason, we're using the 2023 records. We're not using what the records are this year, and that's what the tiebreaker is. So you have the 2023 is not in play. My brain's a little fried. I mean, it's always fried. It might as well be Chester's fried chicken at this point. But 2024. Right now, the Vikings have a 5-game lead in strength of victory versus the Eagles. That can change quickly. It can change. Here's some of the ways it can change. The Falcons can lose out. The Falcons is one of the games that the Vikings won that the Eagles didn't. That can help spike this number. The Cowboys can win out. Other than the game next week that they have in 2 weeks against the Philadelphia Eagles. And if the Eagles end up beating the Commanders this upcoming week, there are ways for the Eagles to end up taking over that spot, but they need a lot of things to go right. A lot. And that's not a world you want to live in. You want to be able to have things under your control. The Vikings needed help from the Lions to lose. And they got that. Thank you, Buffalo Bills. I thought that was going to be the game that was going to give them the most trouble. And quite frankly, Dave, people were talking about, Goff threw for almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Dave, the last 21 minutes of that game are arguably garbage time. The Bills had a higher than 90% win probability from just under 6 minutes left in that football game. They thoroughly controlled that game. They dominated. They put boots to asses. Now, credit the Lions. They were able to still score points and kind of make it competitive at the end. But it was as shallow of a one-score victory as the Packers one score loss as the Packers one score loss was. It wasn't a real one score loss. It was a thrashing. The Bills thrashed them. And now we're looking at a situation where not only did the Bills thrash the Lions injuries are thrashing them. 3 more players out for the season, 1 also out indefinitely, 3 of them being starters. David Montgomery, running back, MCL sprain, had season-ending surgery. My guess it was a grade 3 sprain. Because a grade 2 sprain is like 4 to 6 weeks. Grade 1 is what Jordan Love had. It's like 1 to 3. Aleem McNeil, star defensive tackle, who I was hoping was going to hit the free agent market, torn ACL for the year. Then you had Khalil Dorsey. I believe
McNeil just signed a huge extension.
4 years, $96 million, or maybe it was 97, but big boy bucks.
Yes.
Torn ACL for the year. And then Khalil Dorsey, depth cornerback. I believe he was playing nickel in this game for the Lions. Broken leg out for the year. And Carlton Davis, their starting corner. The one that they traded a 3rd-round pick to acquire. Broken jaw, having surgery, out indefinitely. They're arguably their best 4 defensive linemen on injured reserve right now. They have 3 of their top 4 cornerbacks on injured reserve right now. They have 4 linebackers on injured reserve. It is absurd the amount of talent that is on injured reserve for the Lions this year. Absurd. Will it end up mattering? Yes. Will that translate into Lions losses? To be determined. The one thing that the Lions have going for them that other teams wouldn't in this situation, because remember, like I think it was a couple years ago, the Ravens started 8-3, and then injuries completely derailed their season. I think they finished 8-9. I think they lost like their last 6 games. It was brutal because they were the number 1 seed when they were at 8-3. They couldn't make the playoffs. They got decimated across the board, not just one unit. And one of their injuries was to Lamar, because maybe Lamar is able to kind of pull them up by the bootstraps. But it wasn't happening. It can debilitate your season. 2016 Vikings, injuries, debilitated the season. Now, the Viking season could have been debilitated when they saw Christian Darrisaw go out with a torn ACL and MCL. Nope. They just traded for Cam Robinson, and Robinson has been started off good, and he's turned into a very good player. He's still not Christian Darrisaw, and there are still issues on this offensive line, but the stabilization of that spot has been so critical to how the Vikings have been able to put together this latest 6-game win streak. Kevin O'Connell said it's not often you see your star left tackle go out for the season and then you rattle off 6 in a row. Shows the adaptivity of this coaching staff, the willingness to go out and make a major move, and also shows a lot about what the coaching staff has been able to do and helping coach this guy up. The front office identifying the talent and making a move for not a lot of draft capital. Great stuff. Great stuff. Every team has to overcome injuries. You should not feel sorry for the Detroit Lions. It sucks. But then again, you shouldn't feel sorry for any team that has to deal with this. This isn't an anti-Lions rant. You have to overcome injuries. And Dan Campbell, Ben Solak from ESPN, kind of he shared a clip from Campbell's post-game presser from the NFC Championship game, where he was just candid. He's like, it doesn't matter what your injuries are or your circumstances. If you lose the game, you lose. You need to deal with it and move on and talk about, look, we may never get back here again. It's going to be way harder next time to get back here, especially with a team like the Lions, where they did not have these expectations and they overcame every expectation to be able to get to that spot. You need to figure out all those little nuances. You need to work harder than ever before to get there. And the Lions are in a position where they could potentially get there again. But that defense, that defense can probably hold up against the Bears next week. It held up okay-ish against the Packers. But can it hold up against the Vikings? Can it hold up against the 49ers? Well, let's be real. The Niners have had issues. But can they hold up when Kyle Shanahan just spams wide zone and nobody can stop it? Going to be interesting to find out. But that also opens the door for the Vikings because it makes it easier. The Vikings can clinch with wins the next 3 games, tonight included, and the Lions lose to the Bears and 49ers. The Vikings can clinch. And then week 18 is essentially meaningless for the Vikings unless they are playing for a number 1 seed. So it's interesting. Plus, I took a look at betting odds. BetMGM had the Vikings plus 1,000 to win, and the Lions minus 600 to win the division. Today, no, hold on. I have those numbers reversed. The Lions were minus 1,000. The Vikings were plus 600 to win the division. This morning, Lions minus 500, Vikings plus 350. Basically, 50% swing. The betting markets are seeing this as a real issue. And it is. But that offense is so explosive and capable. How much of an issue is it going to be? I don't know. And I think that's going to be interesting to find out. But I thought it was important to at least have that quick conversation. But Dave, we got a game tonight.
Yes, we do. And it's the winter whiteout.
God bless America. Hey, Packers, we know why you wore the all white uniforms last night. I'm going to tell you this. We are not Packer fans. I have a lot of respect for the organization as a whole, the history, the tradition. Never wear those white helmets again. What an abomination. Don't wear them. Do not wear them. Go back to your wear the whiteout jerseys, wear the yellow helmets.
Yeah, but
it just feels wrong.
Yeah, but it's not a typical whiteout jersey because they have the green and the yellow, both colors, still in there. It's just their white away jerseys with white pants.
Yeah, it's an all white jersey. Like, I don't think they wear white pants regularly. Like, that's a special unusual, white jersey, and they don't wear white pants. So for them, like for the Vikings, they wear white pants regularly. They were white pants at home. They wear white pants on the road sometimes. And they're doing the winter whiteout tonight, which I'm really interested to see how the jerseys look in real time and not just still shots, because they have silver in them and usually all white with kind of silver and some like 3D kind of pop out graphics and stuff like those jerseys have. They could look really interesting. I remember the bone colored Rams jerseys when they debuted. They were just ugly as sin. But then once you saw them on the field, they weren't so bad. I mean, they weren't great, but they were significantly better than the still shots. That's kind of what I'm looking to see. I want to see how those jerseys look in comparison to the still shots, because I think they're going to be significantly different. Is that a good thing? Well, let's find out. I'm really excited to kind of see what that ends up looking like. Dave is drinking a Tullamore Dew. I am drinking a summer shandy in the depth of winter. Why? I had some in my fridge.
Hey, it is what it is. You drink what you like when you like it.
It's very true. Let's have a conversation about where this Bears team is at, because it was really, really interesting to see the Bears the last couple of games. 2 weeks ago, it was the Thanksgiving Day game where they got absolutely boat raced by the Detroit Lions early, and then they came back and
coach forgot about the clock. Yes,
it was perfect timing because I had to scratch my head. But yeah, Matt Eberflus completely blew it. It was such an interesting dichotomy of analysis, because the idea that they were going for was really smart. The play gets stopped with like 33 seconds left. Okay. You come back, you line up, you have everybody get set, you run a play. That play should start around 20 seconds, maybe at 18 at the latest. Where Eberflus screwed up was the second that they got to past 18, he should have called timeout. Yes, you wasted half the remaining clock, but something is happening, and it's bad, and it's not getting you to a good point. It's not getting you in a position to advance the football. You are just killing time. Caleb Williams deserves a lot of the fault here because he was changing the play at the line. Dog, you don't have that kind of time. You gotta go. And you know what? If the play doesn't work, you gotta have it in the back of your mind to just throw it away. You cannot do what he did. Eberflus should have seen it, and he should have bailed him out. It was just a disaster. But you know what was funny? The play Williams checked into, if Odunze turns his head the right way, that might be a touchdown. And that might have been the game winner. So even with all of that, they were that close to winning the football game. A stat from ESPN's Courtney Cronin, somebody that Vikings fans know very well, because she covered the Vikings for ESPN for years. The Bears are the first team in NFL history to lose 7 games or more in a row and not have more than 1 turnover in any of them. They are not playing bad football. They are not winning games because they are losing on the margins. They are losing with coaching. They are losing little things. They are losing stuff like 3rd and 4th down conversions. You have to be able to win in the margins, and especially when you have a rookie quarterback, there's going to be high variance. Caleb Williams, let's be real, he put up big numbers against the Vikings. He didn't have the best day. He had some highlight reel plays that was like, wow, that was great. But the Vikings kind of beat him up all game. They don't care about allowing yards. Brian Flores doesn't care. You know what matters? How many points did you score? That's the number he gives a shit about. That's the number that the team focuses on. That's why, like, people are like, oh, they're like the worst passing defense in the league. Not according to all the advanced metrics. Now, this was after like week 4 because the Vikings had allowed like 300 passing yards a game. Who cares? The Vikings are not allowing you to score. And guess what? You're getting a lot of your passing yards when it doesn't matter, when it's garbage time. Like, those are the little nuanced things that matter. Like, and one of the tough parts about national analysis is not everybody critically watches every single game. There just isn't time. It's so hard to do national analysis with regularity and with complete accuracy. That's why people who are on beats and who cover one team with a focus are usually better at being able to identify things, being able to tell you what is going on. And the Bears, they just keep losing on the margins. And guess what? Their margins are going to be even slimmer this week, Dave.
Not last week against the 49ers. They got beat.
Dave,
it's like
the Bears had
checked out.
The Bears had 4 more yards in the first half of that game against the 49ers than you have in your entire NFL career.
Yeah, but that's it. I have more yards going to the kitchen to get a snack.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, at least half the team checked out. Now, you get into the psychology. Are these guys going to play, to the top of their ability? So they're putting it on tape for whoever because there's going to be a whole bunch of people fired. There's going to be a new regime come in. How? These are questions that need to be answered tonight. Are they going to get the traditional bounce back? They didn't get it last week. Are they going to get it this week? Hopefully not. And I think the key to that is if we start out hot and go up 2 full scores in the first quarter real quick, they're going to go to sleep. They're going to, start daydreaming of their tea times and their Cancun trip and everything else. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, the psychology that's in the building, because that's been part of this whole screw up all season anyways, is how it's never been right, whether it's Eberflus or now Brown or whomever's been there. It's not right. And do they have talent on the team? Absolutely. But they can never seem to get it together because there's always something. And it's always negative. And Chicago Bears fans get frustrated. Ask Pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really tough kind of watching the Bears because there's just so many little things that have gone wrong. And what's fascinating to me, Dave, is the trenches are still the biggest issue on the team on both sides of the football. And that's Ryan Poles' forte, is offensive line. That's why he was such a hot candidate, because he was able to identify offensive linemen. He identified why the Chiefs should trade up for Creed Humphrey. You remember, on that draft stream, I was screaming about it. The Vikings should trade up for Creed Humphrey. Trade up for Creed Humphrey. Hey, the Vikings should trade up for Creed Humphrey. And I was right. I'm not always right, but I will not let that one go. It's really interesting because he should be able to identify offensive line talent. And to give him a little bit of credit, Braxton Jones has been really good for a 5th-round pick. He's just going to miss this game with a concussion. He's been an above replacement level left tackle for a 5th-round pick. That's a massive hit for a general manager. People think of massive hits for a 5th-round pick as like Stephon Diggs. You find a capable starter in the 5th round, that's an incredible job by your scouting staff, by you as a general manager for making that selection. So there's a lot of credit for Braxton Jones. Darnell Wright, I'm not impressed by. I don't think he's very athletic. Like he might be like an overall good athlete, but he's not quick on his feet. And that's a problem when you play tackle, when you play speed rushers. You have to be a lot quicker and more fleet of foot. He's just not. And then the interior still needs a lot of work. Dave, there's a man named Coleman Shelton starting at center. Coleman Shelton.
Okay. Is he any good?
No, he stinks. He's very bad. Plus, his name is funny.
Well, we already know that since Braxton Jones is out with a concussion, rather than going with Larry Borum, which I thought they were going to do this week, they're going with rookie Kyron Amagaji, something like that. Amagaji.
Amagaji's got some talent, but oh my goodness. They should be able to bull rush him to oblivion. He was really good for Yale last year, but one of the tough parts about Yale, you don't face a lot of those.
You're not playing the SEC.
No. And you just don't have the core strength. You just don't have that. And can you kind of build that up? TJ Clemmings couldn't really build it up. He was also a rare one. He had under 32-inch arms, which is one of the, and a stress fracture in his foot that was revealed during the process, ended up being why he ended up falling in the 4th round. Because in real time, I thought that was a steal, because there were talks he was going to potentially go like top 15. I'm like, oh, Clemmings, this rocks. And then the Vikings had to play him way too early because of all the devastating injuries, and he never developed. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes guys just end up being bad. But being able to find those guys late in the draft is a really good thing. I'm going to be interested to see with Amagaji, because he was a 3rd-round pick this year. Thinking was, because he missed a lot of last year because of an injury, that he might have to sit for a year or two, be a swing guy, and then maybe he can be a starter for you long term. I know people in the industry were really high on him, and I thought he was good. I can't remember where I had him. I want to say it was like OT like 8 or 9. I'd have to look, but the nice part is I can do that. Yeah, well, it's the Vikings should be able to attack this offensive line
easy today, I would think.
Yes.
Whether it be Patrick Jones too, like Bill has suggested, or Grenard and Van Ginkel, all those guys should be getting pressure, hopefully. Now they gotta on the edges, they gotta contain, because we have a running quarterback that can score it out. But they should be able to do that. And it's not just our defense versus their offense, or our offense versus their defense. There's holes in the middle on Chicago that should be exploited as well.
Mm-hmm.
Including running the football up the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Update, I actually never got around to watching Amagaji's film in full, but I graded 8 offensive tackles. My guess is he would have been around 9 or 10, because I don't think I would have had him over Suamataia, who's actually been really bad for the Chiefs this year, but he was a project. 5th round guy, super athlete, great size. but sometimes it takes those guys time to put it together because it can be awkward being such an explosive athlete at such a large size. But one thing that I want to kind of look at and keep an eye on is the run game. How the Vikings are going to exploit the Bears in the running game. Aaron Jones has only had 2 games above 100 yards this year. One of them against the Bears. He, however, has 4 more games, so 6 total, above 90 yards and a couple in the high 80s. So it's not like he's not getting production. Sometimes, you know what? You just don't get 100 yards in today's day and age for a lot of reasons. The rotation with other backs. You have just the explosive passing game. The advent of air raid concepts in the National Football League where you're using the pass game as more of like an extended run game. So it's a nuanced conversation when talking about like how successful running backs are, because you have to look at things in a lot of different ways to truly understand what kind of impact they're having. And Jones is having a lot of impact. The Bears are one of the worst run defenses in football, and you're removing one of their starting defensive tackles. Spam duo, just run duo like 15 times tonight and just drive it down their throats. That's what I want to see. I want to see it. And I still have my concerns with Dalton Reisner. We won't litigate that, but they're there. They're real, especially in a concept like duo. If they can execute duo well tonight, I think Aaron Jones goes over 100 pretty easy. I think that I put in a couple bets. I did a spot on VSiN, the Vegas Sports Information Network, earlier today. DraftKings had Aaron Jones 90 plus rushing yards at plus 220. I love that prop. And total yards of 125 over that is plus 650. If you guys want to get a little betting action, those are a couple good ones to do. If they let you parlay them both, a lot of times they don't let you parlay same player props together. But if you can, do it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I'm going to be looking for heavily, Dave, is how the Bears are going to attack Justin Jefferson. The last time these two teams met 3 weeks ago, they basically said, Jalen Johnson, follow him, and we're basically gonna run a shell coverage on that side and man-to-man on the other side. They did not stop. They did not stop attacking Justin Jefferson. They did it with multiple bodies. That also allowed TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, and Aaron Jones to have over 100 yards each, something that had not happened, I believe, since the 2000 season when Dante Culpepper was in his first year as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. That's a pretty wild stat. Are they going to be doing that? Are they going to be doing that same thing, or are they going to have a different approach? Or are they just going to be like, hey, Jefferson's just going to get 100 and a touchdown on us. We just need to mitigate everything else. That's a good strategy too. Like, it's difficult because once everybody starts like being like, all right, everybody else needs to beat us. Well, once they start beating you, then what do you do? That's kind of where teams are at right now. And that's where I'm really interested to see how this Bears defense plays. I think the Vikings should be able to get protect Sam Darnold pretty well. It's also going to be hard to protect him significantly well, like it is every single week, because of how long he holds the football, how they like to really drive down the field. Well, that requires Darnold to hold on the ball for a long time. And the longer you hold on to the football, the harder it is to attack. I'm very intrigued to see what happens. I think it could be really, really interesting. And Dave, this is going to be a fascinating thing to watch tonight, because
how they play
there is
both sides, both coverage, and how KOC plans to defeat it.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I want to answer this really quick because otherwise I'm going to forget. Dalton asks, what's up with Taki Taimani? When's he coming back? Kevin O'Connell did talk about this last week, said that Taki was doing well and that he would be able to come back likely sometime this season. Did not give any specifics. To me, that says Taki Taimani is healthy and they're just waiting for the right time. And once they're on injured reserve, you don't have to report their health Once they're on it, you can just activate them once that 4-game window is up. You don't have to wait. You can wait. You don't have to activate them at all. So I think they're trying to be patient and see, okay, if we activate him, we have to have a plan to put him back on the roster. Who are we replacing him with? Whose roster spot is he taking? Because remember, if you want to send Taki down the practice squad, he has to be on the active roster first. That's a key part of this whole thing. So what do they end up doing? I don't know. I would expect him back at some point. When? I don't know. It's Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has been really, really smart at how he's kind of maneuvered with the back end of the roster. I know people have been memeing about the signing and cutting of Myles Gaskin. It's all procedural. They want him in the building, but they know because he's a veteran and he does not have a guaranteed contract that they can cut him and then put him back on the practice squad and then keep doing that. Plus, if he's on the active roster for a long enough time, he makes the same amount of money anyways. Like, it's all procedural stuff, and it doesn't matter. So, but he got an opportunity to go to the Jaguars. He took it, and he deserves that opportunity if he wants it. But it's procedural. It's not like a disrespect thing. It's, hey, you are a member of the back end of the roster. You don't have a guaranteed contract. We need to play with roster construction and spots with elevations from the practice squad, and you are going to be the guy that we do it with. And he's a veteran. That, like, they did that with Robert Tonyan. They did that with Nick Muse. Like, they're just going to do it because they have to. So I'm not too worried about it. Like, they're going to, when they need Taki Taimani, they're just going to activate him and get him to go. They're going to get him good to go. Dave, when you kind of look at this matchup, because we only have 23 minutes until kickoff, what do you see? What is piquing your interest on? I know you guys talked a lot about it on Two Old Bloggers, which, don't forget, every Saturday afternoon at whatever time Darren wants to show up, usually about 4 o'clock Central Time. But what is, what's kind of your feelings here?
My feelings is this should be a Vikings win, convincingly. Now, what I do believe, like I said before, we go out, win, score quickly, score early, they're going to give up. So, but I want to push them to that point, and I would like to see a physical game, and we'll see how it goes. I think the center of the field on the defense for the Bears is going to be open. That could be taken advantage through runs. That could be taken advantage through TJ Hawkinson, through Addison or somebody like that across the middle. I think JJ is going to get his own. I hope to see TJ Hawkinson score this week. Since he's been back, he has not scored once. He has not been found in the end zone yet. So I'd like to see that. I think it can happen tonight. I also think defensive-wise, I think our guys are going to be watching Caleb Williams more than playing. They're going to have their eyes in the backfield. 1, in case he squirts out, and 2, to jump on passes. I put Byron Murphy on the cover of the thumbnail. I fully think Byron Murphy can extend his interception streak tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it's true. But basically, this should be a convincing win for the Vikings. That's how I feel about it. Now, I asked prior to the show going online, is this a trap game? And you get people, yeah, it's 1,000% trap. And others that, nope. Why explain to Jonas, who I talked to earlier today, who will not be making live at the 2-minute warning because it'll be 3:30 in the morning in Germany, said he's worried his purple PTSD came back. And he's worried about, we clinched, and this is going to be the one we go up and screw up and drop. And I said, hey, I grew up in New England watching the Patriots back in the late 70s and the very early 80s. I went to a game. It was, I think, 1979. They won the game. They were talking about selling playoff tickets because it's the first time in over a decade they made the playoffs. Well, within about 2.5 minutes is all that lasts, and everybody's happy and starting to leave the stadium. And then they go, oh, no. What happened was Miami blocked a field goal, I believe it was, from the Lions. They returned it back, and they knocked them out of the playoffs. Okay. One of those things. Well, I told Jonas that the Patriots had a long, bad history of not getting much in the playoffs. You'd have to go back to when they were Boston Patriots and AFC and the American Football League. And I said, now, did they make the playoffs after that? Yeah, once, 85, made it all the way to Super Bowl. But they didn't get over the hump. I go, the fans very much had the same sort of feeling that Vikings fans do. And they didn't get over the hump until they hired a young, skinny kid from Michigan. I said, maybe it's our time to get over the hump. We'll find out tonight. Is the team motivated? Are they willing to? Is KOC motivated? Put his foot on the gas and just bury him? You know, all that to get to that point. Because, hey, teams playing in 64th season never won a Super Bowl. This season is special. We've clinched a playoff spot. Let's enjoy it. Let's see if we can break those bonds of the purple PTSD. And I think we can.
So I'll say this, and then we'll end up going because we want to give everybody plenty of time to get set up for the game. One of the things for me, I don't think a trap game exists in a division. There is no trap game inside of the division. The Bears could win this game. Why? It's a division foe. They know you better than everybody else. You play them twice a year. They get up for divisional games more than they get up for other games. You're going to get the Bears' best tonight, and the Bears' best might be good enough. To me, a trap game would be next week at Seattle. That's going to be more of a trap game to me than the Bears, because you know what? Division. You throw everything out in a divisional matchup. The Bears have come close to winning all 3 divisional games they played this year. All of them. They could win this one. I'm not going to sleep on them, and you shouldn't either. I do think the Vikings win. On paper, it should be a slaughter. On paper, it shouldn't be close. It should be like 33-10. I think it's going to be closer than that. 27-17 is my prediction. I think the Vikings cover the spread. The Bears keep it relatively interesting, but at the end, the Vikings just put it away. I don't think looking at this game being a trap is fair to the Bears. It's not fair to the fact that this is a divisional game. I think you need to look at it as this is an NFC North matchup. You could very easily lose this game. You better show up. And knowing Kevin O'Connell, how he prepares this team, knowing the leadership of this squad, they are going to be ready to roll. They're going to be on their game, and they are going to make an impact. I think the Vikings win this game, and we will be on here tonight, live at the 2-minute warning. Dave will be probably running solo until I get on the show after the game. It's going to be a good one. Crack open your beers, get your chips and dip. I'm going to go downstairs and start some rice so I can have pork bowls for dinner tonight.
Ooh.
I know.
Bob asked interesting question that I was curious about too, because I didn't look it up. Any word on Geno Smith's injury? No. Structurally, the knee is intact. I assume he's going to be questionable for Sunday afternoon's game. That's another thing. The Vikings game against the Packers, to my knowledge, cannot be flexed out. What I was told by Judd Zolgad, and this is public information, I'm not sharing any secrets,
Fox gets to keep the game because they didn't get the first one because it's a divisional game. I don't know if that's true. I don't know how that all works, but it does make sense. So but the fact that CBS had the first game, Fox gets to keep the second. Now, it could move to 325, which to me would be a surprise because the 325 game is Cowboys-Eagles, which isn't a sexy game, but it'll probably draw more eyeballs than Vikings-Packers because it's Cowboys-Eagles. And they're just bigger markets and more national brands. The Cowboys are the biggest national brand in football. They're going to draw people. No matter how bad they are, people are going to watch that game.
And they're still technically in the hunt.
Yeah, they're 6-8. They just beat the Panthers. If they win out, they have a shot. I mean, it's a slim shot, but they have a shot. So we'll see. But I would expect that game to stay at noon. We will find out, though. Maybe the NFL is willing to flippy-do because Vikings-Packers is a significantly better game than Eagles-Cowboys. Will it draw better? I don't think so. But we'll probably have that answer tomorrow because there are a bunch of to-be-determined games because Saturday football is back. So strap in. Thank you guys so much for joining. Enjoy the game. Make sure you come back tonight for the live post-game show where we are on the air earlier than everybody else, having a great time talking Minnesota Vikings. And we'll be back again tonight. I'm Tyler.
He's Dave. 2-minute warning.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the game and SKOL Vikings, everybody.
SKOL Vikings. Let's win this game. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching the Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone.